This is Rebecca with Masterful Chats, and I'd like to say hello and welcome to all of my wonderful subscribers, as well as those in the audience who are viewing me for the very first time. I'm really excited to have you here with me today. And today's chat is about relationships, the toughest game on the planet, especially as we move through this holiday season. A season of light and love, and yet it can be the most challenging time for people who are alone as well as those who are in relationship. But first, if I may, for those of you who are viewing me for the very first time, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I am an information synthesizer, a mystical scholar, and an intuitive. And I know with my entire heart and whole being that each one of us is a beloved child of God. We are known completely and we are loved beyond measure. I would really appreciate your support if you would share, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It would really help the channel grow. So now, let's chat about relationships. As we move into the holiday season, now that Thanksgiving is behind us, relationships have always been challenging for we humans because it is in the other that we find ourselves. And many of us did not grow up in the most warm families. We didn't grow up in families where it was okay to discuss feelings and to share them, where we learned how to effectively communicate our feelings and thoughts and emotions, and where we were safe. I would like to start off with one huge myth that we all have, I think, when we grow up to some extent, and that is that there is some normal. There is some normal family, there is normal relationships. There are behaviors that we consider to be normal, appropriate, respecting boundaries and the feelings and needs of other people. But as far as the normal family that's on a Norman Rockwell painting, very, very few exist. Many of us grew up in environments that were not safe, in environments where our basic needs were not met, in environments where we did not learn how to speak up for ourselves or to have appropriate behavior modeled for us. And before the age of 7, a child is not able to self-regulate, meaning that depending on what behaviors are occurring around them, they're not aware of the dynamics and what's creating the behaviors, and they really don't have a sense of themselves as separate. And in witnessing certain behaviors, let's say it's a lot of drinking or a lot of yelling or things of that nature, the child has an inability to determine what is them versus what is the family dynamic. Many of us came from families with our parents doing the very best that they could with what they had. But that does not mean that we learned how to communicate, or we learned how to express our feelings, or that we learned appropriate behavior and boundaries in relationships. And depending on the level of emotional and mental maturity of the family, that will follow us into adulthood. When we grow up in a family, I like to call the environment that we're in the family wallpaper. It's on the walls, it surrounds us. We know what to expect for good or bad. We're very clear as to where we can trust or not trust, what we can do, what we can't do. And because that is our normal in that household, in that system, there are certain things that we may never even question because we don't know that necessarily another exists. There is another way of being, another way of doing, another way of existing and living and thriving. And what we're seeing out in the world with the new energies, as I've mentioned previously, is that if someone has a wound to heal, you, me, anybody, if someone has a wound to heal, a part of them that needs to be healed, it's going to be disturbed. That wound will be disturbed. And we're seeing a lot of people who are in a lot of pain, and most of them are very unconscious. And so what they do, because they can't quite deal with what they're going through internally, they're projecting it to the outside externally. The only person that you are in control of is yourself. Now, I'm not including young parents with children in that, or if you're taking care of an elderly parent. Many of us do have responsibilities. But in terms of thoughts, words, feelings, and actions, you are only in control of yourself. And right now, out in the collective, we're seeing a huge amount of consciousness based on the ego. And the ego defines itself by being separate, by being individuated, by being self-sufficient. And quite often, the ego defines itself as better than, and I'm different than you. And in relationships, if one person or both people are very egocentric, it makes cooperation a little bit difficult. In relationships, we are mirrored back what is going on internally within ourselves. And once again, it always comes back to you and me. If we have a good relationship with ourselves, if we love ourselves, if we're kind to ourselves, if we give ourselves what we need, then our relationships externally to ourselves will be a mirror of that. I rarely speak of myself because this channel is about you. But I know when I was young, I beat myself up relentlessly. And I was so cruel to myself. And I attracted those relationships with people who were cruel to me. And as I've healed on this journey, as I've moved forward and loved myself and taken care of myself, I have brought people into my life that mirror that support and sustain me. And you will as well. You can as well. So heading into this holiday season, remember that every person has their own path, and they are responsible for their own thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. Often with the holidays, for people who may be alone, or it's difficult to get back to family, or perhaps going to your family is not an option. Or maybe it is, and that's causing a lot of stress. Remember to take care of yourself. But it does require a consciousness on your part. It does require that you be present and that you be aware of what is going on in your environment so that you can make the best choices for yourself. It does require a little planning. It does require some thought. And it may feel very uncomfortable. I understand that because you're doing something different. But that's okay. It's all about you being your best friend, you being your own best parent, and doing what is in your best interest. And we can always be kind, regardless. And the fact that some people may be disappointed, well, they may be disappointed, but that is their expectation. Because your first job is to take care of you. As you go, so the world goes. If you take care of yourself, if you're kind to yourself, then your relationships, your community, and the world benefit. Never forget how powerful you are. You are a Christed being of light in physical form. And although this culture may want us to feel diminished and small, we are anything but that. We are powerful, powerful creators. And if you need support, a mental health practitioner, whatever you need, reach out. Ask for that help. We are all in this together. And we can change the world ourselves, one person at a time, our relationships, one relationship at a time, our families, one family at a time, and our communities, and then out into the world. Remember how powerful you are and how much you are loved. Thank you for being with me today for this Masterful chat. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And as always, until we chat again, wherever you're at in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Blessings.